Hey, I'm Ton Vin, and this is Seattle Eats, a food podcast from the Seattle Times and KUOW. The Pacific Northwest is a great place to go clamming. Beaches along the Puget Sound are home to razor clams, manilla clams, and geoduck, a delicacy that can go for $40 a pound. But one bivalve flies under the radar. Horse clams. They're the smaller cousin of the geoduck. These gems have a lot of same enticing flavor and texture. But you won't find horse clams in the seafood market. There's no industry for them because horse clams have a bad rep. People think they're too rubbery to eat. That's not true, as we will find out. But to get your hands on them, you need a $15 license and a bit of elbow grease. Today, we'll show you how, with help from Chris Cvetkovich. Chris is a buddy of mine and the owner of New, a street food restaurant in Capitol Hill. He's been clamming on Washington beaches since he was a kid, and today he's giving us the 101 on horse clamming. Then, Chris will show me how to enjoy the fresh clams in his own recipe. It's a flavor experience unlike any other. Time for a field trip. Let's go! Love that smell. Smells low tide. One sunny day last month, I drove to Birch Bay State Park near Bellingham. The tide was super low, revealing rocks covered in barnacles, and further from the shore, a lot of sand. Birds waded through the shallow water, picking off sea critters for lunch. I met with Chris Cvetkovich in a parking lot right by the water.
We're going to be heading a little bit to the south end of the beach here, which is, you see those little tidelands where it's very flat and very sandy. We're going to be going on right around where the herons are hanging out.
As we get closer to the flat, sandy part of the beach, I start seeing shallow holes in the sand. The holes are the size of a $50. Every so often, they shoot a geyser of water a few feet into the air. These holes are the only signs of the huge horse clams lurking underneath. These clams spend their lives buried in the seafloor, 1 to 2 feet underground. They stick their long necks above the sand. A siphon on the end takes in water that the clams filter for their food.
If you get very close down here, you see the siphon is like right at the surface of the sand. It almost looks like a sea anemone. Like when a sea anemone dries up, like scrunches up. It's not a sea anemone because they wouldn't be here. They'd be attached to rocks. But in the sand, you can see the fleshy tone on there. You can see it kind of pulsing a little bit. And if you stand here long enough, it'll probably squirt water right in your eye. We could try digging this one here. Yeah.
It's hard enough to find horse clams in the sand. But digging one out without damaging it is trickier than you would think.
So the idea here is we don't want to dig right by the hole, because if the hole indicates where the siphon's coming out, but the body could be angled a foot in any direction, and you're trying to avoid cutting or severing the siphon or cracking into the shell. So the idea is you're going to be digging a series of concentric holes around it to open up that area, and at some point you're going to have to get down on your knees and get your hand in there and into the mud. As we're doing that, the walls are collapsing on us.
Chris and I dig about 2 feet into the sand. And unfortunately, we hit this clam. The shell shatters. Ah well. But the siphon, or neck, remains intact. And that's what we're after. We filled the crater we dug in the beach. And then we're off to look for our next mark.
Alright, now we want to look for bigger holes.
Yep. Oh, look at that squirt.
Alright, so there's the neck.
Yep, I see it. It's protruding. This time, we dig a wide hole, a foot deep. Then Chris kneels and sticks his hand in the soupy sand to find the clam.
I might need to take my pants off and jump in. Can't quite get my fingers around it. I feel it, it's right there. Gotta dig in deeper, straight down.
Straight down?
Yeah, come.
Oh, there it is. Nice.
There we go.
That's the biggest one yet.
Yeah. Let's make sure we didn't cut the siphon off. No, we did not. Ta-da!
This clam is huge. The shell looks like a regular clam, but it's bigger than Chris's palm. There's a hole on one end where the neck sticks out. It's a thick tentacle, about 8 inches long. Chris and I spent an hour on the beach, and we ended up with 7 clams, the maximum you can collect with a horse clam license. We got a bounty of a horse clam. What do you think? What are we going to do with these?
What I always do with them, make ceviche.
All right.
I think that horse clams are one of the ideal seafoods, especially locally sourced ones that you can make ceviche out of. I think they're fantastic, and a lot of people don't give them, it's not like they don't give it respect. They don't think about it because you can't buy them in the store. You have to go out and harvest them yourself.
Chris is right. You can't buy horse clams in the store. There's no market for them. And on the World Wide Web, not many recipes for horse clams either. But they're just as good as the expensive geoduck when you eat them raw as sashimi or in a ceviche. Geoduck is an expensive delicacy in Chinese restaurants. When I dined in Richmond, BC last week, geoduck dishes cost as much as $100 US. Lucky for me, Chris was willing to share his horse clams free of charge. A few days after our beach trip, I met up with him at his house in Mount Baker. Chris made a Peruvian ceviche. The base is a medley of raw seafood and citrus juice. Then you can add veggies like onions, bell peppers, really whatever you want. The key to ceviche is the acid in the juice. It cooks the seafood without losing the wonderful, fresh flavor.
You know, there's no real formula for ceviche. You can put things in there just to what strikes you as what you want to try. For acids, most people use lime. Doesn't mean you can't use lemon. Doesn't mean you can't use grapefruit juice. You could use Sprite. Technically, you could use Coca-Cola. You know, you just want an acid in there to cook the meat. Today, we're going to be using a mixture of both lemon and lime.
And I see you cut off at the neck. That's the best part.
It's the best part texture-wise. You can eat the mantle. Mantle is part of the body that's going to be in the shell, the part that's not sticking out of the shell. You want to get rid of the guts, which is the black area in there. Most people don't eat that. It's not that you couldn't eat that. There's nothing poisonous about it. And then the mantle is oftentimes chopped up and used in chowders. You wouldn't want to make a ceviche out of that because it doesn't have that texture. It's a little bit mushier.
Yeah. And Chris, I got to thank you for doing all the dirty work. You gutted it. You cut it. You kind of cleaned it too, didn't you?
Yeah, it's not hard to do. I mean, that's the nice thing about it. It's not gross and it's not difficult to do, and it doesn't take very much time. From this point, we have a really tough skin on the outside of the neck. We are going to remove the membrane from the neck itself, and I'm going to do that by blanching it very quickly in hot water. If you have an Insta-Hot, you could do it that way. Boiling water, we're just going to do maybe a count of 3, and then we're going to pull it out, bring it over to the sink, and we're going to start under cold water. You can use warm for this because the water from the tap isn't going to cook it. We're going to start using our thumb to rub along the neck. And you can see how that's starting to peel away there. And then we have like this very bright, white, clean meat underneath. And if you're not getting it to come off with your fingers, use your fingernails. Or even like run a knife along it, like the back of a knife. If we're trying not to cut it at this point, we're just trying to get it. It's like peeling wallpaper.
Oh yeah, it gets off easily, doesn't it?
From that point, now that I have the clean neck on here, I'm going to slit this thing laterally, so I'm going to go straight down on the side of it. So if you look at the end of the neck, you see two holes in there, one on the top, one on the bottom when you're holding it flat.
Right.
So we want to cut those, we want to separate those, because that might have some sand on the inside. So I'm just going to use my knife.
To like butterfly it?
Yeah. 1 grain of sand can ruin a ceviche. Yeah, so there's a little bit of sand at the end there. We definitely want to get rid of those.
I love the smell, Chris. It smells like the sound. It smells briny.
The sea. It smells like the sea.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a good sign, right, Chris? Because you don't want it to smell fishy.
No. I would not recommend eating them if you're having to plug your nose or rinse it to get rid of the odor. All right, so now that we got the clams clean, this is the fun part. This is where you can just start being a little bit creative. When you have the number of clams like we got our limit of seven clams. So that's actually quite a bit of ceviche we can get out of this. I'm probably going to freeze some of these for making ceviche a little bit later, or you can make just several different varieties of ceviche. We're going to make one today. So I butterflied them, and I'm going to hold them down. And I'm going to kind of like flatten them out a little bit. And then I'm going to cut it very thin at an angle. I'm going to do a very shallow angle on this. We're trying to make this as thin as we can.
It's like sashimi.
Exactly.
Have you had this horse clam as sashimi?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like we're not cooking it because we want to do anything other than add the flavor to it. We want the freshness of the citrus in there. We're not doing it to kill any bacteria, any parasites. This you can eat. I'm going to eat a piece right here. Have one.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what you were smelling before, that brininess.
It's sweet. It's really sweet. Oh, again, Chris, it's just that salty, briny flavor. And I've had horse clam. I had it with you in Lopez, on Lopez Island. And I thought that was a bit like leaner. This is pretty plump.
Yeah, these feel pretty fat. I don't know if it's a seasonal thing or...
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to take our shredded horse clam, put it in the bowl here. And the first thing we're going to add is our acid.
And what are you using for acid?
I'm going to do a combination of lime and lemon. So, and again, don't look up recipes for proportions of this much clam to this much acid. It's really to your feel and your liking. Some people prefer their ceviches to be a little bit less acid based. Here's some sweet onion that I picked up. Add some of that. You can do your sweet onion as chunks. You can do. I prefer doing them as very thin slices. Again, if you're a big onion fan, throw a ton in. If you don't like onions, don't throw a ton in.
Well, I like that you use the sweet onion because it really battles that brininess.
Yeah,
it really works.
And doing it. I mean, you could use yellow onion, but I think you would have that onion thing happen when you. So typically, if that's all you have, blanch them in hot water. You could even use the same hot water that you blanched your clams in if you still have that around. Do that for 3-4 seconds. It's going to get rid of a lot of that for that first bite. Now I'm going to do an avocado. And this is one dish where you really want that perfect ripeness of avocado. If you get one that's too soft, it's just going to blend in, and that wouldn't be... You want everything to stay separate in a ceviche.
Great. We got avocado, the neck of the horse clam, the onions, lemon, lime. So I guess now cilantro, Chris?
Actually, I'm going to add some of these. These are the cheripita peppers. It's a Peruvian jungle pepper that I brought back from Peru. And they have, they're little powerhouses. They're very piquant. There's a bit of heat to them. You're not going to find them here in the United States. You might. You could find them. You can find them, especially in market, but they're quite expensive. But you could substitute like a peppadew. Like I typically add jalapeno in there or serrano. If you want to do red bell pepper, if you don't like heat. There's nothing you're going to put in here that would suck. I wouldn't do chocolate.
Oh, I don't know, Chris. We just did an episode on chocolate, and a lot of them taste savory. And even funky like an Oaxacan.
Yeah, I'm going to get flamed online. But what about moles? What about... I'm going to add a little bit more lemon juice to it because as I started adding the other ingredients, noticing that the clam is kind of soaking in that lemon, I just want a little bit more liquid in there. And then a bunch of cilantro. So I just rinsed off the cilantro. I'm going to chop everything. I like to use the stems. A lot of people don't. They just pluck the leaves. I think maybe it's a little prettier. I tend to like the stems. They pack a lot of punch to them.
It has a nice earthy flavor to it. Mm-hmm. And plus, I like the crunch of it. Yeah.
And then last but not least, salt.
Chris, one of the things that shocked me is, well, you've been to Peru, and in Peru, which, they make great ceviche, there's a lot of salt in the ceviche.
Tons of it, yeah. But when you make it at home, try it without the salt. And you're not going to like it. And then as soon as you add the salt, it's one of the... salt in everything. It does that with every food, but it specifically in ceviche, it brings out a lot of the flavors and it makes it what it is. And if you try it without salt, you're not going to like it.
Oh, it smells great now. Because I feel I can smell the zest. I can still smell the brininess. I can even smell the pepper. Yeah.
That's killer. That is killer. So I'm going to dish some up here. Who's eating?
Unlike, say, manilla clam, this is not as wet or as plump, but it's really meaty. It has a nice chewy texture. And And one of the reasons why a lot of Asians, a lot of refugees, Vietnamese, especially Southeast Asian refugees, they love horse clam because they like that chew that you don't get from geoduck. And I would not call this grizzly. I would not call this rubbery or tough.
It's not rubbery at all. It's more of like a beef tendon, like a properly cooked beef tendon. It has that bite, that chew to it.
Yeah.
Al dente.
And it has a good bite, and it goes down really easy, right? Because it has that brininess, and along with that sweetness, which I'm just shocked, Chris. I can't remember. Let's see, you've caught a few horse clam on Lopez Island, and it didn't taste like this. I talked to Fish and Wildlife, and they said this is a spectacular season to catch clam. Daytime clam digging will last until mid-September.
Oh, at Birch Bay?
Everywhere in Washington State.
Because I know, Mud Bay in Lopez Island, that's year-round clamming. It doesn't have a season.
Yes, I should specify. Yes, clam digging does not have a season, but the difference is people usually don't dig during the winter.
I see.
Because it's low tide at 2 a.m. and it's too cold, it's too dangerous, there's no lights. So even though technically there's no season, I think people will tell you clam digging season is during the summer when there is daylight low tide, or whenever daylight low tide is. And this year happens to be spring to mid-September. Does it feel different, Chris? Because you didn't get this at a supermarket. You caught this and you made it yourself. Does it feel different to you?
It always does. I mean, anytime you put hard work into something, like when you repair something on your house by yourself, it looks prettier to you than if you hired somebody who came in and did, because you know the effort that went into it. And even if you had gone out there, I've never gone out and not caught clams, but even if I went out and I didn't catch clams, I could still had a damn good time because I'm on the beach, I'm digging, I'm usually with friends, and I'm doing what I love doing, like being in the outdoors and being in nature. But then, God, if you can actually catch something, then it's this, oh my God, look at what I did, I'm the provider.
Another joy of this is it's pretty damn fresh. This isn't getting any fresher than you catching it yourself and cutting it up and making ceviche. Yeah. Instead of just it's sitting in the freezer or in a seafood aisle. Yeah. Chris, this is amazing. I'm going to eat another bowl. There are two great clamming spots you can drive to from Seattle. Birch Bay State Park near Bellingham. That's where Chris and I went. And West Penn Cove on Whidbey Island. If you're inspired to take your own horse clamming journey, remember, you need to get a license from the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife. We'll put a link to their site in the show notes. You can also find Chris's ceviche recipe there. I recommend eating it with tortilla chips. Thanks for listening to this episode of Seattle Eats. The show is a production of the Seattle Times and KUOW, part of the NPR network. You can support Seattle Eats by investing in the local newsroom and the specialized beats that make this sort of storytelling possible. Please consider joining and subscribing at KUOW.org/eats and SeattleTimes.com. Seattle Eats is produced by Claire McGrain and edited by Jim Gates and Trevor Lensmeyer. I'm Tom Vin. See you next week.